If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror, we'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Weirding Way Media.
Night, Mr. Walters.
You see that guy over there? No, he's an actor. The guy on the phone, he's a prize fighter. Me, I'm a cab driver. I'm the only cab driver in this place.
Good evening and welcome to Night, Mr. Walters, a taxi podcast. I'm HP, your co-host, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Father Malone. Father Malone, how are you this evening?
HP, let me tell you something. Someday over there on the Noise Junkies, you're going to come crawling back to me. And you know what? When that happens, I'm going to say, thank God.
Hey, it's season 3, Father Malone, where we've made it. We're at season 3 of Taxi. I'm very excited that we are talking Taxi season 3, episode 1, Louie's Rival. This was written by Ken Eston and directed, of course, by James Burrows. Reminder, we're doing these shows in broadcast order and not in order of filming. Father Malone, can I take a moment to break in and do something a little bit different for a change?
Of course. Why, you don't need my permission. It's your garage.
Well, you know, we're a team. I'm taking a page out of your playbook, Father Malone. You are on Midnight Viewing's weekly roundup, which I would encourage everybody to check out if you haven't already. Occasionally, you'll give a shout out to a listener. And I have my own shout out to give to a listener. This shout out goes to Jim Allen, who wrote to me and asked, hey, where's season 3? What's going on? You haven't had any episodes up. So I said, all right, this is my prompt to make this happen. So thank you, Jim. Sorry for the long break between seasons, but here you go. Jim, thank you so much for listening. Please stay in touch. And if you haven't already, leave a review, click a star, whatever you can do. We want to hear from you. So thank you again. So here we go.
Hey, Jim, thank you for writing. I agree with you, by the way. I don't set the recording schedule. That's HP. So you and I are on the same page.
Well, it's good that we're rectifying that tonight. We're getting together and we're doing what one of the very favorite things we do, which is this show. So here we go. We open in the garage.
Oh, wait, HP, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I rail these things early on, but since this is a new season, there've been some changes. Most notably, I don't know if you noticed, but the costume designer is different this season. The newest costume designer is named Clark Honus. His most famous claim to fame is his band, the Blue Jean Committee, which he designed their style, and he designed the entire style for everyone this season on Taxi.
I am such a fan of the Blue Jean Committee, so that makes me very excited. No, you know, that actually tracks Father Malone because I have several side notes that I want to bring up during the course of this episode.
The
that
entire
are specifically...
first page of notes is nothing but blue denim jokes. Okay?
Well, let's do this. We're in the garage. Elaine is wrapping up a call on the payphone.
What's she wearing? What's she wearing?
She was wearing some kind of blue blazer, thing. I didn't really take much note of it. I thought it was okay.
Notice what was going on below the waist.
No, what was going on?
Blue jeans. Go ahead. Next.
After agreeing, she's on the phone. She agrees to Saturday night. She hangs up and she bounds excitedly over to the other cabbies at the poker table. She exclaims, way too enthusiastically, in my opinion, Father Malone, that
Hey.
Doug Johnson has just asked her out on Saturday night. Now, here's my first side note. Isn't it kind of weird, considering that this phone call was about her setting up a date with somebody, that she chose to close the call with, "Thank you, bye." It's as if she called, she called the store to ask for their hours. Like, why would you, if you have a potential someone you're going on a date with, why would you say thank you, bye?
Do you have several side notes just about this bit of business? Because this bit of business made me really scared for the rest of season 3. That they started with this not only lame vaudeville B plot that they're obviously threading up here on the narrative needle, but who made that call? Did she call him? Did he call her? He was like, where can I get a hold of Elaine during the day? I need to ask her out right now. Let me call the garage she works at. Hopefully she's there. Hello, is this the payphone at the garage? Is Elaine there by any chance?
This is such a lame opening, and this really is what passes for a B plot, but we're going to talk about it. But it's a nothing of a B plot. Elaine mentions in passing to these cabbies that she doesn't have a babysitter, and they all leave the table en masse. These cabbies that she's apparently mothered, and everybody loves each other. They're like, we can't be bothered to watch your kids, Elaine, so we're just going to leave the table.
It
right?
might be a situation where they're like, you know what? We're season 3 in Elaine, just as characters. I'm not even talking about the actors here. Yeah, we're season 3 here, Elaine. Haven't we done this? Haven't we done the babysitting plot? Give me a break, Elaine. Bobby's got quite a lovely new haircut, don't you think? Like
I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that. Give me a second. I'm almost there. She goes over and asks Bobby and Tony to help, but they both have plans. Now, side note, I wrote down, Bobby is sporting a new shorter hairstyle. That, along with the sensible blue cable knit sweater and jeans, there's jeans combo. It seems to signal a new preppier look for Bobby. What did you think, Father? Besides, I know you're already on about this blue jean business.
Barring the blue jean nightmare going on here, Bobby's new style is gross, and it makes me like Bobby Wheeler a whole lot less. That feathered hair, that kind of Sean Cassidy like leftovers from like 79, 80. I hate that hairstyle, and that top that they've got him in, I don't know what's going on there. And then of course the fucking blue jeans. It's that weird early 80s, just sort of blocky, like not form fitting, but not loose. Just this in between, like as if a child had drawn a pair of blue jeans. Everyone is wearing a child's version of blue jeans in this episode.
The costuming is very bad so far. And I agree. I liked the old devil may care roguish Bobby with the hair that he would, the mane of hair that he would swing around, and he had the leather jacket with the shirt unbuttoned to his crotch, basically. But this is like we're seeing a kinder, gentler Bobby, and I don't like the tone that's being set here.
It seems like Bobby has given up on acting. That's what it seems like to me.
It feels like, well, but yes and no. Like you could look at it that way, but you could also look at it like, well, maybe my agent said to me, look, the roguish gleam in his eye character is out. Maybe we need something kinder and gentler. Maybe we need like a Dustin Hoffman type or something that's a little more sedate and less frightening to casting agents. Maybe that's why he looks different. I don't know.
Well, that would track, given that what we're going to get here and in the next episode is touchy-feely early 80s men. What are you doing? Can you hear that? I think Alan Alda's at the door.
Is this where we plug our future episode of Cable Box Theater where we talk about the 4 seasons?
No, we don't have to, but yeah, let's make that promise with everyone because it's going to happen.
We got to make that happen. Actually, it wouldn't be cable box theater. Maybe it'd be something else, but we'll find a way.
That has to be for everybody.
Yeah. Elaine eventually catches Bobby in this lame ass lie about a date that he said he had for Saturday night, but he couldn't remember the woman's name. So he reluctantly agrees to babysit. This is so lame, Father Malone.
I told you I was nervous. It took me a couple of viewings to watch this episode, to be fair. In fact, once I got to basically the next scene, I just skipped ahead and watched the second episode. We always watch, if you're listening, we always watch 2 episodes. We review them back to back. I jumped ahead and then came back dreading this one, sat through this again, just thinking, oh no. And then it kind of picks up. But yeah, was really, really worried that they had gone off the rails here. And is this not their last season on ABC?
They were on ABC for the first 4 seasons. It was only the 5th and final season that was on NBC. So, which was odd. I thought it was 2 seasons on NBC, but I'm wrong. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I don't know. I only bring it up because that crossed my mind when they were being such a sitcom-y version of themselves at the beginning of the season. I thought, oh, this must be their final season with one network, and then they picked it back up on another, but apparently not. So,
well,
I was being too alarmist. Obviously, it's Taxi, for God's sake. We haven't even gotten to some of my favorite episodes. There's nothing to worry about.
One eye-opening aspect of this whole project that you and I are undertaking here is watching these episodes in sequence full on. I'm reminded that surprisingly, not every season batted 1,000. There's plenty of ups and downs. Some episodes that are just god awful mixed in with some of the classics. And we're going to see that in season 3. I'm looking right now at a list, and some of my very favorite episodes were in this season. But having said that, there's some clunkers that we're going to have to get through. At this point, Louie pops into the garage. He furtively kind of is walking around, and he summons Alex urgently to his cage. And unsurprisingly, Alex doesn't budge from the bench. He's at the bench in front of the coffee machine reading a newspaper. Louie tries snapping his fingers. He's basically acting as if Rieger's a dog that has to be called into his cage. Finally, Louie decides the better of it, and he goes over to Rieger himself instead of having Rieger come to him. He sits with them and he admits to Rieger that he has a problem with his love life. So now we know we're in for a Zena-centered episode, which, to be honest, no disrespect to Rhea Perlman, Father Malone, but those are not my favorite Taxi episodes, these relationship episodes with Louie. How do you feel about that?
I think that most of their serious relationship episodes completely suck. And I think that the Xena episodes are the worst now. Like the one-off ones that I complained about, at least it was a one-off one. You know, we're not getting Angela back as a romantic interest. Or remember when Bobby had that sugar mama? That Broadway producer? That was great. But we've had so much Xena, and I don't like Xena, like actively do not like her as a character. She does nothing for me. And that was when she was supposedly like a good match for Louie. And so now we're getting here where they're kind of on the rocks. I'm just like, good riddance, like go away already.
I think part of that problem, Father Malone, is the very first episode that Xena appeared on, that the writers fell over themselves having the characters say how much they love Xena and, oh, she's great. And I can't, oh, did you see Xena? She gave me this shampoo that she said would work. And this idea that they're telling us over and over, hitting us over the head with the idea that everybody loves Xena. And so by extension, I think the audience is supposed to love her too. But for me, It doesn't work that way.
Exactly. I hate when writers and producers are like, here, you're going to love this one. It's like Poochie, the Simpsons joke, you know, like, here, we've designed this character for you to love. Like, I don't know. Thank you. And, you know, obviously that's Rhea Perlman and Danny DeVito, and they were seeing each other and then got married during this period. So I'm sure it's a familial thing on set, but all I kept thinking was somebody kick her out of here and up to Boston where she will thrive.
It's not altogether different from when Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, the Aaron Sorkin series, remember the very first episode, they're talking about how edgy and brilliant the comedy is.
Was there any other episode? Did they get past that first episode? Not in my mind. But I know exactly what you're talking about, where the edgiest kind of comedy on television, and they do like fucking Gilbert and Sullivan.
Writers, don't hit me over the head with how I'm supposed to feel or embrace or not embrace something. I'll draw my own conclusions. Thank you very much. But I think that might be part of what irks me about Xena, I think, which, like I said, I feel bad because it's probably certainly Xena's closer, I would assume, to the real Rhea Perlman than Carla Tortelli ever was. So
I doubt that. I bet she's more like Carla.
You think so?
I bet they wrote this sweet, lovable character for Rhea Perlman to play. And then when they brought her over to Cheers, they were like, just be you.
I could be. I'm bagging on the character. I'm not bagging on Rhea Perlman, the actor, because she's fine. She's doing what she has to do. Louis is laying this thing on Rieger about problems with his love life. And this, once Rieger knows that this is about Xena, it gets his attention in a way that he wasn't engaged before. Louis says somehow they've gotten out of sync. He makes some double entendres about their lack of sexual chemistry, which then prompts Alex to leave and go away from Louis. And Louis protests that he's pouring his heart out to Rieger, but Rieger correctly points out that all Louis is doing is saying that he's not getting enough action. I think that's actually the exact words that Rieger uses. And good for Rieger, because he's calling him out for the boorishness of the conversation.
I love when Alex just won't give him quarter to be the victim that he likes to play, that no one else will allow him to be. So, and I like that Rieger is willing to help, but not willing to help him in the same sort of bullshit, woe is me way he's hoping for, because obviously the problem is Louis. Also, the other problem is, of all of Clark Honus's grievous actions against the cast of Taxi this season with the blue jeans, Alex Rieger's wardrobe is the worst. This is the worst we've ever seen him. He's got blue jeans up to his nipples. What goes on up from there are those horrible, flimsy, faux Western shirts with the faux mother of pearl button snaps.
Yeah.
And it's just some vague plaid. Ugh.
His wasn't as egregious as the other ones because he's always wearing dorky stuff. It's not like he's a fashion plate.
But there's a difference between a stylish turtleneck with another outfit, another layer over that, and then this thing, this, like, I just saw Urban Cowboy get me to the cowboy store.
Gillies, the bar, mile-long bar. So finally, Louis admits the real problem. He's afraid of losing Xena. He's cut to the quick on this. Louis says that Xena sees something in him that other people don't. And that's one of the reasons he cares for her so much. And Alex tells Louis flat out that you just need to treat Xena better. To which Louis replies, what makes you think that I don't treat her well now? And then Alex calls him on his bluff, basically, and says, well, why don't you describe a typical evening with Xena for me? And Louis says, hey, we watch a little TV, then we hit the sheets. And that's it. Alex is incredulous. Louis asks Alex, well, you describe your idea of a romantic evening. And then Alex says, well, you go to a ski jump, you take a ski jump, and then you see that. No, I'm kidding.
Out of an airplane.
That's right. You learn how to play Being Alive, and you play it in front of a bar.
Make sure your date is at least 30 years older than you, and then take her on a tour of all her original haunts from growing up.
The key to a successful date, Alex says, is you have to get a good whiff of the woman's hair. Just get your nose in there. And just
really grind it in. And if she's family, even better.
Even better. So creepy. Alex starts to describe this generic date. You go to a movie, you have some dinner, blah, blah, blah. And Louis is now furiously taking notes. Unless you're Travis Bickle, I think you have an idea of what a generic date should entail, right?
Honestly, this is like a silly premise. The guy doesn't have one idea on how to have a date. I've had this conversation with people. Men,
yeah?
Other men, yes. Conversation. Like, did you not talk about her? Did you ask her questions about? No, you didn't. Well, and that's in like the past 10 years I had that conversation. And this episode is from what, 81?
Yeah. Louis he can't grasp the idea of just simply talking with Xena. And he doesn't even know what to talk about, even if they had a conversation. So after finishing his notes, Louis walks away in triumph. He's confident. He's holding up this notebook and he's confident that this is the golden key to a better relationship as we fade out. Now, we fade in, it's B-roll. Jim Burrows loves his like zoom in on a nondescript apartment facade. Now, but there was something about it's a very imposing building at dusk, and the bright sky is contrasted with the dark facade, and it made it look like Rosemary's Baby or something. Did you get that same vibe from it?
I did, but this is our second bit of B-roll, and it's all B-roll we've actually seen before. Again, more things that were leading me to believe that this was the final season of Taxi on this network. I kept saying, well, they didn't even send out a crew. They're like, when they started season 2, it was like, hey, look, Mario's. Hey, look at this building. Look at this over here. We talked about this in one of those episodes.
I didn't realize this B-roll with the building was reused, because we see some of that in the next episode too.
Well, that's the great thing about James Burrows is what you mentioned, those like weird zoom ins sometimes. Sometimes he'll use a piece of footage and then manipulate it in a different way so it doesn't appear as if we'd seen it before.
True. It's pretty clever. So we cut inside of Xena's darkened apartment, and they both walk in. Xena and Louis walk in. They're both in a huff, and she turns on the lights. They're getting settled. Apparently, Louis's idea of romancing did not go well. He complains about taking her to a fancy French restaurant that she doesn't even want the leftovers, and the restaurant didn't want them to take. So Louis had to go out and get his own bags to take the food home. Now, here's another side note, Father Malone. Do you remember there was a time, maybe this is just sitcoms or just TV or movies in general, there was a time when French food was considered the height of elegance in the US, right? So in a sitcom, if someone was going to take their woman out on a fancy date, almost invariably they'd go to a French restaurant.
Absolutely. Jack Tripper was a French chef. That was the height of, we knew he was he wasn't a cook. He meant to be a chef because the French was involved. And yes, every sitcom either used French chefs and French cuisine as a benchmark of the character had made it, or as a point of ridicule, like these stuffy old bullshit. What is this, snails on a plate?
It was like a fish out of water thing where they'd come in and they don't know what to order, then they order it, and they're often adversarial with the snooty, snobbish waiters or maitre d's. So this is a trope that this episode took me back to. But let me ask you a question, Father Malone. Have you ever been to a French restaurant, a fancy French restaurant?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I have too. I will say this, I've only been to a French restaurant once. And by the way, it was up to that point, it was the single most expensive meal I had ever had up to that point. It was a great meal, but it was really expensive. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that.
My French meal was not, I've had actually many French restaurant experiences, not the most expensive I've ever had, but the best I've ever had, honestly. And none of what I really enjoy about French cuisine I can eat anymore because I can no longer process the gluten. They've shut me out, the cursed French.
But let me just make sure, by French restaurant, I'm not talking about à bon pain. I'm talking about the real. I'm kidding.
No, you can shove that right up your Frenchness.
Anyway, that's kind of what we're seeing here.
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
No. I'm responding once again to your à bon pain. I'm going to rain à bon pain down on you.
À bon pain. It's like mall food. Xena tells Louis that she wants to get to sleep early tonight. So would he mind? She's sending him signals like, I really need to be alone here.
Motherfucker.
Just get out of here. She's trying to be nice about it, but failing to take the hint, Louis stomps into the bedroom to get it on. He basically says like, all right, well, I'll get out of here quick. Meaning to him, like, let's just go, let's bang, and then I'll get out of here, and I'll be out of here in minutes. Xena yells at him that she wants him to leave. Finally, she says, I want you to leave. Louis reemerges from the bedroom. He's like half undressed. I think his tie is off and his shirt is unbuttoned. This is where things get a little bit serious. Things get real here for Louis. She tells Louis she's very tense tonight and she needs to be alone. And then Louie, ever the pig, he gets this really sneaky look on his face and he tells her that he'll take the tension out of her. Wink, wink.
Oh, yeah.
And he starts chasing her around the apartment like a cartoon wolf or Pepe Le Pew or something, which eventually prompts Xena to get him in a headlock just to stop him from stomping around. And finally, Louis asks her, "What did I do so bad?" Xena still wants him to leave, but she asks if he even wants to know what's bothering her. Louis shrugs it off, saying, "I couldn't be that bad." And then he asks the question that we already know the answer to. He offhandedly asks, "You still love me, don't you?" Which I think anybody who has reached this kind of a relationship crossroads knows the death that that question can signal, because in life, you never ask a question you know the answer to. This is his biggest mistake of this whole episode. Her silence basically answers the question for him. She can't even bring herself to say to him, "No, I don't love you anymore." She apologizes and then she drops this confession that she's met another man, which
Uh-oh.
I didn't remember this from watching this episode whenever I watched it last. I was actually kind of shocked by that.
At this point, Louis De Palma should just leave. But go ahead, spill the story.
If he had any,
filthy cheaters.
if he had any dignity or self-worth, he would have just said, "All right, I know this is it."
You know what? Beyond that, let me just have my say about but the relationship advice going back and forth on this show all the time, right?
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, I agree with it, right? And the advice that Rieger is trying to give him here is just that basic advice. And like I've said, I've had to give that advice. Like, you have to be interested in the person. You need to find out about them, like that kind of a thing. Certainly, that is good advice across the board. But I think Louis De Palma is a particular brand of human being. And I think there's a person out there for him where all of his fucking cuckoo behavior is totally accepted and welcomed. And then their crazy behavior would be reciprocated on him. Like, that person is out there. And I think they want us to feel bad through this episode. And all I can think is, thank God we're getting rid of Xena.
I don't love this Louis who's kind of stripped bare. He's like a raw nerve. I don't like that Louis. I like the Louis with confidence who's a pig, who's quick with the one-liner. Louis can't even speak at this point. He's so shocked at this revelation. And Xena admits that she's confused. She went to Mario's of all places. What a betrayal.
Oh, right to the heart.
So she went there a few weeks ago with a friend and met the day bartender whose name is Dwight. He asked Xena to go out, and even though she admits she had some hesitation, she felt something good between them, and she said yes. And they went on several dates during which things weren't physical, but one day, without planning, as these things happen, they became lovers. This sets Louis off on one of his patented silent, slow burns. It's like Judge Smales, right? He's just got the red face. His veins are popping out of his forehead. Xena notices this change in his complexion and she says, "What's wrong?" And he's so freaked out that he can't even talk. He grabs a pencil and hurriedly writes, "I can't breathe." And it's just this little bit of physical comedy. It's whatever. She slaps him on the back and he gasps for breath. She grabs, he had poured
oil can for this joke. Get the oil can.
Wizard of Oz, right? Yeah, that's what you're. He had poured himself a glass of peach brandy in when he was still feeling kind of full of himself.
This gross?
Yeah, so she takes the brandy and gives it to him, presumably so he can drink it down. And he, instead of drinking it, he splashes it across his face, and you just have this amber, thick liquid. It's just really disgusting.
It looks like it's going to be so sticky in moments. Like, you're just the rest of the morning, every part of him, all of his hair is going to be matted and clinging. His eyelashes are going to be stuck together.
It's really gross. It's not pleasant to see at all.
And it also brings to mind, have you seen the footage? I'm sure it's on YouTube, when Danny DeVito showed up on some talk show early in the morning, and he had been up from the night before, and he was there to hawk his liqueur limoncello, and he had been up drinking limoncellos all night, and he just kept saying, I've been up drinking limoncello.
Danny has been out partying all night with, tell them, I'm so jealous.
George.
Clooney.
No, I knew it was the last 7 limoncellos that was going to get me.
Yes, exactly. Have you been to sleep yet? Not really.
I don't know.
Do it now.
I'm not going to do. I'm going to wait a while.
Wait a
and
couple of
then
minutes.
go to sleep.
So while he was splashing this apricot brandy on himself, all I could think about was limoncello.
Finally, Louie gets to the point. He says, what are you saying? And Zena says, well, I think it would be best if we didn't see each other for a while. And Louie seems to accept this news, and he starts to get dressed. Zena even helps him kind of button his shirt a little bit. He pours another peach brandy for her and says, one for the road. And he turns to leave as sad piano music plays in the background. But before he walks out the door, he turns to Zena and he says, one day you're going to come back to me, begging me to take you back. And you know what? And when you do, you know what I'll say? I'll say, thank God.
God.
And then
well, it's a good, you know what? It's a good line, except it's here and it's designed to make us feel sad. And I don't feel sad. I feel jubilant right now.
right. There are several twists to this episode that I actually really liked, and they might have actually saved it a yellow light or two, but I do appreciate that about this, because you're expecting him to say, you're going to come crawling back to me. And when you do, I'm going to say, get the hell out. But no, I mean, Louie is being nakedly honest, which, as I said, isn't my favorite Louie, but I appreciate what the writers are trying to do here. Even if it didn't land, Father Malone, I agree.
Can you describe my current position to the listeners?
Well, Father Malone is doing the gladiator thumbs down. He wants to execute that line of dialogue, I think.
Pretty much.
And I cannot disagree, but let's continue on here. So we cut back. This is another reuse of Mario's facade, the B-roll. And
this is the very first footage they ever showed us of Mario's, those two guys running in.
Yeah. Kind of slapping each other on the back as they go into Mario's.
Like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. Who are those guys?
Right. So we cut inside, and Elaine and Tony and Alex are sitting at their customary table. Bobby struts in. He orders a beer from the bar, and he joins the table. He's back, by the way.
Got in from 1933, everybody. Let's continue this joke fest. Hey, what do you say, Elaine? I've been thinking about our previous position, and I got a new contract idea for you. What do you say?
Bobby is back to the leather jacket, shirt unbuttoned halfway down look. I mean, his hair is still, there's no going back to his previous hairstyle, but at least there's a nod back to the devil may care Bobby.
No, they've got a new leather jacket on him, and it is early 80s angular. It's already yearning to have shoulder pads. It's yearning to be a gigantic Frank Miller drawing, and I do not like it. And they've gone, I don't know what's going on here with Bobby Wheeler. Are they already turning against Bobby? These writers, have they figured it out? I don't know.
Men's jackets throughout the rest of the run of the show, I believe, are leaning towards the members only look. Right. We all remember members only jackets with the epaulets and the puffy and all that. And I think what you're saying is it's a little bit of a puffy leather jacket, members only type look, I think.
Can I just share a joke? My late wife, Jessica, your friend and mine, used to say, for 30 years, she milked this joke. Anytime she saw somebody in a members only jacket, she would say, hey, look, the last member. Never got old.
We're inside. Bobby's at the table. Curiously, though, I noted this. Jim is standing alone at the back of the restaurant, glancing around furtively. Father Malone, did you notice him back there?
Of course I did, because I was praying he would come in and save the scene.
I wrote down, if I didn't know any better, I'd say he's up to no good. It felt like he was casing the place for some nefarious reason, did it not?
I don't question what Jim is up to. I know he's not up to no good. You know he's come on.
I got a little nervous because it looked like something bad was about to happen and Jim was involved. But fortunately, that's all in my mind. So Bobby, again, with this stupid B plot, he tries to talk his way out of babysitting Elaine's kids, but it doesn't work. And by the way, this is the last time we will ever hear of this ridiculously nothing story thread. So thank goodness for that.
Some things are coming. I guess this episode is making us, at the start of season 3, making us happy about endings. Perhaps if they cast Zena off and let's start showing Bobby the door.
Jim then walks over and asks Elaine to dance. And Elaine replies that there's no music, Jim, but Jim says there will be soon because he just put a quarter in the jukebox. And then we have a TJ Castronova sighting. It's Tommy. He comes over and delivers his vaudeville quip that Jim just put a quarter in the cigarette machine. Remember those, by the way, Father Malone, cigarette machines?
Absolutely. Fuck your ID. Anyone can walk up to a cigarette with just a couple of quarters. You're a smoker, baby.
They were marvels of engineering. They had that it was like a little bar that you pulled out, and it had like a lucite knob, fancy lucite knob with
like
the brand.
The world's deadliest foosball table.
Yeah, it was like foosball things. Yeah, the pole. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Anyway, the joke is that he put a quarter in the cigarette machine, and that's that. Whatever.
Did you ever get a pack of cigarettes that way?
Sure, at a bar, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my God. By the time that I think we were up and smoking, they're probably push button ones.
I do remember having to pull the thing. I mean, it may not have been like an all the time occurrence, but at least on, I'd say, several occasions, I remember I can hear the sound of the metal chunk chunk as you pulled it out. But you're right. Eventually, I think it was probably a push button thing. I thought this exchange was utterly bizarre, Father Malone. Tony kind of gets up from the table and he says, "Well, I got to get out of here. Got to get up early in the morning." And then Alex says, "Well, why? What are you doing?" Tony replies that he's meeting them there for breakfast. He's got to leave Mario's early, or to get up early the next day to go back to Mario's to have breakfast with the same people that he's sitting there drinking beer with.
This is what I'm saying. Like, is this some sort of meta commentary episode? Are the writers making fun of all of the tropes of sitcoms here? Where at the beginning they're like, Elaine, we've done the plot with you and your kid, and we got to babysit her, babysit for you. And now Tony's like, well, gotta get home because we got to get back and do this exact thing again tomorrow.
It does seem like a bit of a satire of a typical Taxi episode. Or if you took a Taxi episode and you ran it through a copy machine about 5 or 6 times, so now you're getting a 5th generation version of Taxi. This might be it. These jokes are just landing terribly. But what's even weirder is after they have this exchange, the rest of the cabbies get up too, because apparently they've all tacitly agreed they're going to meet there for breakfast the next day. Nothing weird about that. So as they're leaving, a disheveled Louie walks in, smelling of apricot brandy. That you were just describing the stickiness of that apricot brandy sticking to his eyebrows and his clothes. It's all still there.
In 2 centuries, they're going to have a genetic model of Louis De Palma at the newest Jurassic Park, Manhattan edition,
preserved in amber.
Yeah. I'm a digger.
He tells them that he's shattered, that life is over. And I like this actually, after the quickest beat, they look at him and then Bobby says, "All right, well, we'll see you tomorrow then." And they all file out. Every one of them files out. Even Alex, who you would think should know what's going on because he already had this conversation with Louis. So
I was sure Alex was going to stick around, and I was right.
You were right. I was right too. Louis ambles in. He side eyes the guy at the bar who is evidently this Dwight character that Zena spoke about. He's the backup bartender. And Louis even starts low growling like an animal. But just then, to your point, Alex pokes his head back into the bar, and it restores my faith in Alex as a good human being that he's not going to leave Louis there and wallow and potentially do something that he's going to regret, like beat up this bartender or try to.
Can I just say that the bartender, on first glance, I thought it was Xander Schloss.
From
Repo Man.
obviously Repo Man and from the Circle Jerks. Yeah.
Yeah, and Pray for Rain.
Yeah.
He looks just like him.
He did.
It is not him.
Alex comes in and he asks Louie to sit down and he asks him what's wrong. Louie says that Zena left him and he's been up all night drinking. Maybe drinking limoncello like he's wont to do. He asks Rieger if he ever got his guts stomped on by a girl. And Alex says, I know just how you feel. And he starts to tell a story, relate a story to Louie about a girl from.
I like this a lot. This is pure De Palma.
It is. All Rieger's trying to do is relate to Louie on his level. And Louie impatiently says, my life's falling apart, so I need to listen to stories about you? Rieger, you're making this about you? It's my life that's falling apart here.
Yeah, so, he says, like, quit being so selfish, Alex.
Right. Louie says the worst part is she fell for a bartender named Dwight, and that must be him over there. Alex says, it might not be him. You don't know. So Louie yells, look out, Dwight, just as this guy is carrying a tray of glasses. And of course, it confirms that it's Dwight because the guy freaks out and drops everything all over the place.
It's a good bit, I guess.
It is. Like I said, this isn't
all.
I'm
grasping for anything to enjoy about this episode.
Some of it I like. Louie wants to go talk to him, but Alex insists that he doesn't. And Rieger goes to buy some beers, and Louie demands that he pump the guy for info. And Alex says, I'm not going to be a spy for you. Alex is basically reduced to doing the same thing that Louie did to him earlier, which is call out commands to Louie like a dog. Sit, stay. Because Louie keeps trying to get up and talk to this guy, Dwight. So Alex goes to get the beers, and then the bartender starts. It's supposed to be small talk, but it's basically Mr. Exposition all of a sudden.
Yeah, like what the fuck? Like if I sat down and a bartender started spilling to me, I'd be like, peace, man. This is supposed to be the other way around, yo.
Without any real prompting, the bartender says, well, he's doing good, but if you asked me yesterday, I'd have been in some real trouble. But I think he got it all figured out. The bartender says he met a girl there a few weeks ago named Zena Sherman. They hit it off. The next thing he knows, they're seeing each other every day. Things are getting better and better. But all of a sudden, Father Malone, she gets serious on him. And that took all the fun out of it for him, so he decided to stop seeing her. Alex thanks him and takes the beer back to the table. Louie is desperate. He asks Alex what he learned, and Alex confirms, yeah, that's Dwight. And she's serious about the relationship, and he's not. Alex says he's going to break up with Zena. Louie admits to having mixed feelings. He says he's sad that Zena's heart's going to be broken, but then he says that's going to be good for him. He thinks that she'll just come running back to him. We cut back to the Rosemary's Baby apartment where inside Dwight's not even in the room. He's in the doorway telling a stone-faced Zena that he's sorry it didn't work out. And then Louie barges in as Dwight's leaving. I think he even like kind of hustles him out of the door the rest of the way. Like, yeah, whatever. When he shoos about the door. Louie then proceeds to make himself at home in her apartment, basically lecturing her on the breakup while he's casually making a sandwich, which is really kind of funny.
Yeah, because first of all, that sandwich looks fucking delicious. And the fact that I don't know that, who are we rooting for here?
Well, that's a good question because we're not rooting for him because he's being such a dick about it.
Like he can come and, the thing is, like when he comes and confides to Alex is always like, yeah, but you know what? You're just a horrible human, Louie. Like I'm not going to fucking feel bad for you for this. And then we're seeing that in action now. Like it does now feel like a hustle every time. He's like, I don't want to lose her. It's like, if he didn't want to lose her, he would have behaved one way differently in any of their interactions for the rest of the episode. All the episode keeps saying is, yes, they're not supposed to be together.
Really, the central question of this is who are we supposed to be rooting for or who are we supposed to be feeling sorry for? Because it's not very clear, even now where the episode is 5 minutes left and it's still up in the air. Louie declares that he and Zena can resume their relationship on their old footing.
I was going to make you beg, but you've been through a lot.
Total dick. Zena is fuming watching this, and finally she declares that she doesn't want Louie back. Louie is incredulous at hearing this, and Zena says she didn't break up with Louie because of Dwight. It all began with Louie and his problems, emotional problems, personality problems, maturity problems, even sexual problems, she says. Zena refuses to entertain the notion of getting back together with Louie. And there's some more wrangling from Louie about what his idea of love is. But finally, Zena asks, what is his concept of love? Like, what do you think love is, Louie? And this actually, I thought this was another good bit. Louis says that love is the end of happiness. And he goes on this rant about how one day all a guy's got to do to be happy is watch the Mets. The next day, you got to have Zena in the room watching the Mets to be happy. There's still the Mets. It's still the same room, but now you got to have Zena there. The things he loved are made better by having her there. Now he can't enjoy them unless she's with him, which is kind of sweet.
Oh, it's very sweet. And if he meant it and their relationship was meant to continue, then he should have said this at the very beginning of the episode once he realized he was going to lose her. He certainly should have said it after he realized he had lost her because she, broke up with him and took a lover. And now why he didn't say this as soon as he walked into the thing. It's just on and on and on. Fuck you, Louie.
Yeah. Hearing this story come from Louie moves Zena, and then they're closing in for a kiss. Just before they're going to lock lips, she comes to her senses and says, "Oh God." And she puts her hand up on her temple in misery. She realizes that she's back in the same crappy relationship again, and she'll never get out from under it. She says this, like, basically she expresses this idea that I'm doomed. I can't get out from under this relationship. But Louis mistakes this as her coming back, and he's thrilled. So it's this dichotomy where she's essentially describing how she's in hell, basically, for lack of a better phrase. She can't get out from under this terrible thing with Louis, but Louis can't read the room, and he's thinking to himself, "Oh, I got it made. We're back together, baby." So it's kind of like these two people that are made for each other, still locked in this eternal dance of death. So we freeze frame. That's the end of the episode. That's the end.
That's the end. I'm like, is that an ending? Like, I don't know what happened there. Did they get back together? Did she break up with them? Like, what? Where are we? I will say this before we get into the nuts and bolts of the actual end of the episode. This is the birth of Carla Tortelli, because Carla Tortelli on Cheers is constantly going back and forth with Nick Tortelli, played by Dan Hedaya, who is this loathsome tiny guy who everyone cannot stand, and she can't stand either, but he has this weird pull on her, and she fucking hates the fact that they keep getting back together. And here it is.
Pretty brilliant, actually. I didn't think of it like that. If you think of this like a choose your own adventure, right? They could have done one of, let's say, three things. They could have had them kiss and make up and passionate and everything's back together. That's one way. They could have had her.
I would have hated that. Go ahead.
I would have hated that too. They could have had her steadfastly say, "No, get out of here, Louis. I don't want to see you again. This is it." And he would leave, and that would have been another ending. But they didn't.
I would have loved that ending.
But somehow this one to me felt more genuine, I guess. When you're dealing with these relationships, there's no absolutes. It's sort of like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. These two people who are not right for each other and should not be together, yet somehow end up in each other's orbits despite their best efforts. That's what I really loved about this ending. And it kind of saved the episode a little bit for me.
I agree with you to a certain extent. I do not think these characters are meant to be together, though. I don't think this is an Eternal Sunshine situation. Those two characters are going to end up at each other's throats, but the ride to it is worth it. That's not the case with these two characters. But I do agree with you that this feels like a very 70s ending for what is now looking like a very 80s television show. This kind of complicated sometimes a song has to end in a minor key. What are you going to do about it? Kind of an ending. I loved that. It's the only thing I liked about the episode.
It saved the episode for me, for sure. I mean, there's a couple of things. They zigged in a few parts where I thought they were going to zag, and it actually worked for me because by and large, I didn't love this episode. And I think part of the reason why I forgot about some of the nuances is because this isn't one that I would typically revisit. It's not a, one that's in my best of collection, if you will.
Well, the thing about it is, the rest of it is so fucking vaudeville, so like lowest common denominator sitcom, that I couldn't see this notion of we're watching a breakup and that's just as valid and we're going to embrace it that was going on here. Like, the rest of the episode is not supporting that thesis, and I don't know, like, on the one hand, I feel like I don't ever want to be spoon fed by these episodes. On the other hand, I would have liked Louie to get the fucking point.
It's exhausting and it's kind of infuriating as a viewer to watch him go through these machinations, and it's a little frustrating. So, having said all of that, let's talk about yellow lights.
What does a yellow light mean?
Just a reminder, we're going to score this episode on from 1 to 5 yellow lights. 1 is the worst Taxi episode, 5 is the best. As is our custom, again, Father Malone, we're going to throw it to you. What do you give Louie's rival?
Giving it 2 yellow lights. I did not like this episode from top to bottom. I'm giving it 2 based on that ending, just because ambiguity is fantastic and irony is good for your blood. But I didn't like the look of this episode. I didn't like the wardrobe on anybody. I thought the jokes were corny at best, and it just felt confusing and weird. Like, it's Louis crying that he loves this girl and wants to be with her and he'll do anything it takes, and then does nothing, and then cries about it and does nothing, and then cries about it and does nothing. I don't know what to glean from this, because unless this is the last one we're ever going to get. If that's the case, okay, but it needn't have been this confused.
We are in agreement here. I gave this episode 2 yellow lights as well. What we have here, kind of in essence, Father Malone, when I think about this, is we really might have our very first solo Louis episode. Because to be honest, everything is happening around him and revolving around him, but no one really has any real agency except for Louis. Right. Zena doesn't really have, she's not allowed to really decide whether she wants to stay or go from Louis. Alex is fairly passive. He doesn't really do much. And let's not talk about Elaine and her weird B plot. So essentially, it's like a one-man show here with Louis. And as much as I enjoy episodes that delve deeper into Louis and what he's all about, I mentioned this earlier. I realized that I don't love the episodes where he's laid bare and stripped to his essence. There's just something about a defenseless Louis in that way that I don't respond well to. As far as I will go is the one where he has the high school reunion. I thought that one had a good payoff, and it doesn't hit you over the head with all of this. I agree with you that the sort of bait and switch of the ending is what saved it for me. You think that Louis is not going to get Zena, then she's going to kiss him and make up. I love what you said, which is the ambiguity of that ending is worth 1 yellow light to me. So that's why I gave it 2 yellow lights. Father Malone, you gave it 2 yellow lights as well. That's going to do it for this episode of Night, Mr. Walters. Father Malone, where can the folks find you when you're not clocked into the garage?
You can always find me at Midnight Viewing. I'm there day and night and day. Twice a week, you can hear my show, Midnight Viewing, over on the Weirding Way Media Network. HP does all the music for us and appears on the weekly program with even more selective music. Go over there, give it a good review or something. And go to the Patreon. If you actually listen to the show and you enjoy it, you can subscribe. Patreon.com/Father Malone.
Go check it out. And I always stump for this. The weekly roundup is my favorite of all the content. And Father Malone is the hardest working man in podcasting. I firmly believe that. He produces more content by and by than anyone else I know. So check out the weekly roundup with him and
Doesn't
Ricky
mean
G.
it's quality, but it
is
is a
though.
lot.
The weekly roundup is great. You should, if nothing else, check that out. That's a nice taster for all the other content that he has available. For myself, you can find me elsewhere on the Weirding Way Network as well. I host the Noise Junkies music podcast that Father Malone referenced there. I'm an occasional guest on the Culture Cast with Chris Dashew. And I also have a Bandcamp site, hpmusicplace.bandcamp.com. Just released an album not too long ago called Wired and Waiting. Please check that out. S'il vous plaît. As always, please feel free to write us, rate us, review us. We'd love to hear from you in any manner you choose. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you again next time.
Night, Mr. Walters.
Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies. Inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.